It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete. Another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for three. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Welcome back into Cougar Sports Saturday with Matt Baiamonte and Mitch Harper. Let's not waste any time and get out to the phone line and bring in BYU Athletic Director Tom Holmoe, who recently announced his retirement, which will come at the end of this 2024-2025 athletic season. Tom, first off, congratulations on the announcement, and I'm sure it's got to feel good to have that out in the open in public.
Well, thank you, Matt and Mitch. I appreciate it. It's something that I felt was the right time. And after 20 years of service, I still feel good with that decision. So thank you.
Yeah, congrats again, Tom. And you know, when you look back at these 20 years, are there a moment or two that really stand out to you that whether on the field or those relationships that really kind of, you know, stand out in your mind as great moments during these 20 years?
Yeah, I have a few. I think they're kind of sacred to me and really kind of precious, and I don't really share them because they involve people and student athletes and coaches that just were like incredible moments. But I'd say overall, if I could categorize working with the student athletes at BYU through these 20 years, seeing the ups and downs, the challenges overcome, the difficulties with injuries and trials, and then coming back and achieving many of their goals, and just having that smile on their face knowing that they did what they intended to do. That was super special for me.
Tom, you touched on the relationship with the coaches. You've had a tremendous track record, whether it be Bronco or Dave Rose, Kevin Young now, and Kalani Sitake. What's been your secret to finding good coaches that fit perfectly at BYU?
Well, I don't know if there's a secret. I think it just has to do with kind of a knowledge of the individuals. They have to be able to have great acumen for their sport, to know their sport kind of inside out. And those coaches that you named were really prepared for it. There's an additional piece, I think, and that is the fit for BYU. BYU is unique in many regards, being sponsored by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Many of the student athletes, most of the student athletes that come, are looking for an experience at BYU that would be more than just the game. Yet these members come and they really want to play. They want to be successful on the court, on the field, in the pool, on the track, wherever it is. They have been playing their sports since the time they were young kids. And at this point in time, it's kind of the apex of their careers for many of them. So you find coaches that can have that combination of competitiveness and power to be able to push them and develop them, and then have that compassion and sensitivity to kind of help mentor them off the field. And when you can get that together, you get a coach that can, put those powerful qualities together. Student athletes benefit in a great way.
BYU AD Tom Holmoe is our guest here on KSL News Radio. And during your news conference earlier this week, Tom, you pointed out that it wasn't always, rosy in the AD spot. There were those years 5 and 6, that were trying. I'm curious, what were the biggest challenges you felt like that you experienced through this job? And do those challenges still apply to whoever the next AD will be?
Oh, those certainly still apply. I'm very friendly with a lot of the athletic directors across the country, and in the last few days since I made my announcement, I've had some really sweet conversations with some of them. And that is one thing, Matt, that we did talk about, was there's always going to be issues in the world of college athletics. And I think it's one of the reasons that we're in it. I think that coming to work every day, one of my job responsibilities is to come up with solutions and to be able to help student athletes, coaches, and teams get through difficult things. And I don't think that duty is unlike most people in their jobs, unless you have a very rote job where you're doing exactly the same thing. My job at BYU, one of the reasons I liked it so much was I felt like every day was a new day, and I liked the challenges. And it wasn't like that these were earth-shattering challenges every day, but there's with 631 athletes and 21 teams with the coaches, assistants, and such, our employees, and then the relationships we have on campus with the various departments, there's bound to be discussion points. There's bound to be issues and sometimes great debates, and being involved in them, being able to be good communicators with each other, being able to, we call it the one team concept. That's a great, challenging but fun opportunity and very rewarding position to be in.
I'd imagine one of the challenges, Tom, was filling a independent football schedule for years. Was there a home and home or an agreement in the independent era that didn't come to fruition, but you really wish that could have happened for BYU fans?
Yeah. By the way, there is, and that would be the University of Alabama. The Alabama AD, Greg Byrne, is a good friend of mine. I've known him for a number of years. He was the athletic director at Arizona, and we had games with him when he was there. And during the COVID time, before these games were scheduled, I was trying to find games for us in the future because we had no league. And Greg and I agreed that we would have a home and home between Alabama and BYU in the event that the Southeast Conference, the SEC, decided that they would play non-conference games. As it turned out, the SEC decided they'd play the COVID year, but they would only play their conference games that year. So those games never really came to be, but that would have been a fun one.
What was it about independence that highlighted the strengths of BYU football in particular to transition into the Big 12? Because I kind of wonder if had you guys stayed in the Mountain West, if the Big 12 would ever come calling. It felt like independence showcased some things that maybe being in a Group of 5 league did in the past.
I think the biggest thing was that BYU is a national university. We have students who come from all over the country and, quite frankly, around the world to Provo, Utah for their educational pursuits. And then they leave and go all over the country. They go back to their homes, or they go to various places for graduate school or medical school or law school or businesses, and then they stay. And so Cougar Nation is populated throughout this country. It was a huge advantage to BYU athletics, particularly football and independence, that everywhere we went, we had fans. So it was understood by the people that I was contracting for games with, athletic directors at different schools, that they knew that we would have good crowds. So I'm not going to say it was easy, but it was super fortuitous for us to be able to get games because of, one, the brand name that BYU's had for decades, beginning with Lavelle, and for the great Cougar Nation response. Wherever we play, we bring fans into the stands. It's great for the game day for those schools, and it's good for their pocket. And so it made it a lot easier. I don't believe that there's a lot of schools that could have done independence scheduling that way, but we benefited because of those reasons.
Tom Holmoe is our guest here on KSL News Radio. Since you publicly announced the retirement, have you had the chance to talk to all the coaches in the athletic department to explain, maybe what the next steps are? Did they all know before the public announcement that you were retiring?
I had talked to all the head coaches before I announced it. I have not had the chance to chat with every one of the assistant coaches yet. We have many that are on the road or recruiting or not available, and I hope to do that soon. But we have an athletic department meeting that's coming up next week. So the entire athletic department, it was regularly scheduled, but good timing for me to be able to say the things that I'd like to say, answer some of the questions that some of our athletic department personnel would have, and be able to begin the process of moving forward, going strong in the right direction, and continuing a great tradition of BYU sports.
Why do you think because it does feel like, Tom, that the BYU fan base has become more passionate and more involved in BYU sports than maybe ever before. Why do you think that's happened under your watch as athletic director?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's a lot of great communication right now. So through BYU TV Sports, we have been able in independence with ESPN to be able to show all of our games. Now with the Big 12, you get better times. Some people would argue with that, but you get on NBC, ABC, ESPN way more. You get to play bigger games. But when I say communication, I think the social media aspect, I think the internet has been able to bring BYU athletics, particularly football and basketball, to the masses. And we have bigger and better ways and more effective and efficient ways to communicate with our fans. So I think those touch points are accentuated now more so than they were in the past. I think if you look back into the days when Lavelle was coach, there were a lot of great things, great games, great wins, great players. But that the story of that, the emotion and the passion, the feelings of those games and moments weren't as stressed. You just didn't have the opportunity or the mechanism to get that out to the crowd. We live in a day and age right now where media and how you use the media is very important. And thus, I think we say often that the BYU brand is very important. So it's one thing to be able to communicate it, but you still have to be able to have a product that's going to be successful, that's going to be relevant, and it's going to be able to represent the church, our school, and our alums in a way that everybody could be happy about.
And Tom, when you bring up the church, how involved is the AD at BYU with communicating with Salt Lake and the Brethren and just kind of making sure that that's in alignment, whoever that next AD is? How critical is that role to that position?
Well, it's a critical importance, but it's not like I'm in Salt Lake many times. I think that the way that the church leaders communicate in the church meetings and wards and stakes is through a series of lines where you have general authority, you have the president, the prophet, the apostles, and the general authorities and the regional representatives down through the stake presidents and bishops, and it gets to the individual members. And I think that's how it works up in Salt Lake. The Brethren and the Board of Trustees, made up of the auxiliary leaders and priesthood leaders, they speak with the Commission of Education and through our president, Shane Reese, and the various leaders on our President's Council at BYU. The alignment really comes with the leaders at BYU in the various units being able to be just perfectly aligned to the best of our ability with our school leaders, because we trust that our school leaders will be aligned with the church leaders.
Do you think, and you brought him up earlier this week, but Brian Santiago's been your right-hand man, wingman, as you noted, and he's been around BYU a long time. Do you feel like he's best positioned to take this next role because he's been involved quite a bit?
Yeah, Brian has been a great asset to our department for, I think, 25 years now. And he certainly is an internal candidate that knows the ropes, that has been involved on a national process in committees across the country in different sports. He's one of the candidates that they'll be looking at that will have a great opportunity.
Tom, last thing for you. What do you and the wife have planned for when you officially retire later this summer?
Well, we certainly intend to continue to be true blue BYU fans. We really feel that this is a change. It's a transition, but that part of it won't change. We would like to serve a mission for the church, and that's something that's been in our minds and in our hearts for quite a long time. And when the time is right, we're hoping that we can do that.
Well, congrats again, Tom. We really appreciate the time. Will I be seeing you at the Big 12 Spring Business Meetings? I know you noted that the contract's till August, or will it be the next person, you think?
Well, it depends on what President Reese wants and what Brett Yormark at the Big 12 wants.
There you go.
I'm willing to do whatever it takes to keep the Cougs rolling.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and we appreciate all the time spent and the conversations over the years, and it's been quite the accomplishment when you look back at all the success in football and just the athletic department as a whole. It's pretty impressive stuff, and congrats on a job well done.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Go Cougs.
That's BYU AD Tom Holmoe here on Cougar Sports Saturday on KSL News Radio. We're taking a break. On the other side, we'll unpack what Tom had to say and talk some BYU football next here on KSL.